Hi, thanks for watching. My name's Jim, and I wanted to talk to you before I show you this project because what I want to show you is real important. If you overdo it on this little task that I'm going to present to you, you can ruin your gun and make it unserviceable. What I'm going to show you how to do is just take away the tiny little imperfections that the gun came from the factory with. And we're not trying to polish an area or anything else like that, but you're trying to get rid of that creep that's synonymous with high point firearms, at least their carbines. So, you know, don't get it in your head that what I'm going to show you is how to turn this into a 3 or 4 pound trigger pull or something like that. I just want to get rid of the creep, and it's very simple and it's very safe when you get done. It just doesn't take that much to it. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and show you some of the stuff that I've already done to the gun. Well, let me back up just a minute. If you own a high point carbine, you know that when you're squeezing that trigger, it's like dragging it over some 40 grit sandpaper, and then there's a nice crisp snap. You know, the sear is doing its job, and what we're going to get rid of is all of that sandpaper feel before the trigger releases the sear and you get that snap. It's made a world of difference. So I'm sure you're tired of listening to me talk, and I'll get behind the camera now and point out some things to you. Okay, what we have here is a high point model 1095. That makes it a 10 millimeter. And what I have up on top for a sight system, because as you can see, the original peep sight is gone, and so is the front sight and the rail that went under the barrel. And what I've replaced this with is the seal. It's if you've never heard of it, it's a great sight as far as I'm concerned. And let me kind of zoom up on that and get a better look at it. Come on, camera. Just a second. A little more light on the subject. There it is. So that is, if you've never seen it before, a complete sight system. This is basically the front sight, and this is the rear. And as you look through it, it has basically a reticle in there. They come in a few different styles. I got the Delta style, but it's lightweight, and with the gun in this configuration, fully loaded, it weighs exactly 8 pounds. So the gun, I would say, with the original sights, was probably about 6 ounces heavier than it is now. And I also bought from High Point excuse me, this is the Konus Pro. It's the 1.5 to 5 power. I have some warne ultra high quick detach rings on it, and so it fits right over the seal sight that's about an inch, well, it's 3/4 of an inch from the base, from the rail up to the top. And this has been a great little scope, well, so far anyways. It has a what's called an AIM Pro reticle, and it's really pretty nice. It's particularly good if you're old like me, and this is a tough scope. I know that for sure, because the other day the entire gun with this scope mounted on it, but not with these rings, fell off of this kitchen island and landed on the floor, and it hit so hard that it broke the scope loose in the rail. But these warne rings have a big square bar in them, if you can see that right here, and there's virtually no play when that's in the grooves on the Picatinny or the slots. So I took it out today and I sighted the sight in, and it's incredibly accurate at close ranges, like 25 or 30 yards. I haven't tried it beyond that yet. And then first I sighted in the scope, and then I took it off and sighted in the seal, and then I reattached the scope, and it was basically a 5-shot group with 1 flyer, and the other 4 was just a ragged hole. And it's really easy to remember where to replace the scope at, because there's only one way that it'll fit on there with this rail. It has to go back to the same place, otherwise you'll never get it mounted. But I'm real happy with that, and if I'm hunting or target shooting, I'll have the scope. Just hiking or being out in the woods, something like that, or for home defense, this is a great sight. It's completely 100% visible in total darkness. The only thing you need is a light down here to light up your target. The other thing about these high points that a lot of people have complained about is the cheek pad being really sticky. And what I did when I got mine was I just sprayed a little bit of WD-40 on a rag, and then peeled off the protective film that it ships with, and just kind of buffed it out, and that was the end of it. Now, I've also heard about people complaining about the butt pad, that spring-loaded device right there on the end of the gun. I like it, doesn't bother me. The other issues that I've had with the gun is the thread protector and the charging handle both need a little bit of blue Loctite on them to keep them from coming loose. And as you can see, the bolt is open, there's no magazine in it. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and take the gun apart, and once I get it all taken apart, then I'll show you what I did. And before I go to that part, these are the companies that I bought this stuff from. The warne Maxima quick detach scope rings. the M Carbo. It's the tritium lit rail sight. It's pretty impressive. And then I did get a replacement spring from M Carbo. Great company. Real nice to deal with. Very, very attentive to the customers. They don't wait for you to call them. They call, or they'll email you and say, hey, how's everything going? So I'm going to shut this off, get it apart, and you guys are going to be pretty pleased with this, I believe. Okay, I'm back, and I've got the gun stripped down to everything except for the sear pin, if you can see that, or the sear right there. And I'm going to leave that in for just a minute. And a lot of people say that these are very difficult guns to strip down to this, and it's just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. It's not that big of a deal. One thing to remember is that when you're working with this, the way I'm going to show you here, is you've got to keep your thumb right here, because that will pop out of there because it is under spring tension. So you push that down real good, and then make sure this bar stays down. That's your safety, and if it starts to slide up, then the trigger won't function properly when it's like this. So anyways, I'm just gonna hold down on that and work the trigger. But there we go. Now, when I first started doing this, I put in an M Carbo spring, or was in the process, and I noticed that after I got it in and I'm checking the trigger by holding this thing down and doing this, I could see this piece right here just dragging across this. If you can't see it, that is a raised up bar that this lever, or whatever they call it, it's directly connected to the trigger, and there's a pin in there. You could drive it out and just take this completely out of the way. But I ended up putting the factory spring back in it, and I'm going to show you what I did to kind of get rid of that. Now keep in mind, well, you know what I said earlier is I'm only removing what High Point should have done, and they sell inexpensive guns, and this is probably one of the steps that they skip. So what you want to do is hold that in there. Now let's see if I can do it this way. There we go. And what I did was I just took this piece of 600 grit sandpaper, and can you see that? There we go. Yeah, and I just worked it back and forth across here like that, just taking it away as much as I could, and then checking it and seeing if I could still actually see it dragging. There we go. Kind of hard to do because this is upside down to me. But I took all of that out. And one other thing that I did was I'm going to go ahead and take this part out now. I think I should be able to use the little tool that comes with it. It comes with the gun. This little handy dandy tool. So I'm going to put my thumb on the sear and just kind of pop that out of there. Well, that can rest for now. The main thing is to get this spring out of here all in one piece, and you don't lose it because it's not a really big spring, so it'd be real easy to lose. So I've removed the spring and the sear, and they go together like this. And if you can see that notch right there, it's kind of L-shaped. Here we go. That always faces the rear of the gun. I'm going to set that aside and take this piece out. There we go. This tool is pretty handy for a lot of stuff. And with a little bit of finagling, you can get it to take the entire gun apart. Give me just a minute so I can readjust the camera, because I'm working off on mid-air there. Okay, that's better. So I'm going to set this aside for right now, the barrel. And this is what I want to show you. This piece right here. Yeah, fuck. Okay, here we go. Turn that so I can see what I'm doing. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, so this piece here, this is what this end right here connects to the pin that holds the sear in, and it's easy enough to find videos about these, you know, how to take the guns down this far. But this other piece here, that's what rides this section right here, this part and this face, ride on the lever that comes from the trigger. And I took some sandpaper, because this is just a stamped piece of steel, and I took some sandpaper and I just took the paint off. That's all I did. And I noticed that right here on this tip of it, there was a small, really tiny burr, probably from when it got stamped. So I took the sandpaper and just took that burr off, and most of it I just took off with my thumbnail. It wasn't very big. And then I just took the paint off of this piece here. Can we see that? Yeah. Anyways, but just wherever it connects to this piece that connects to the trigger. So just cleaning it up is all you're doing. It's just something that High Point didn't want to spend the time and effort to do. And that's okay, because the guns are so dirt cheap. Who can fault them, right? And besides being dirt cheap, they're incredibly functional. So once I could just take that out altogether. It doesn't have to be in there. So you can take this lever that's left and just move it out of the way. It is, you know, got some spring action there, and just stick something in there that kind of keeps it from coming back up. And what I did was I just took the sandpaper and just like I said, real lightly just buffing that section out. And if you can't see it on my gun, when you get yours stripped down to this position, it's plain to see, but it's just that one section from here to there, and that's where all of the problems are at. And like I said, and I'm going to say it again, you know, you're not even taking off 1/1000th of an inch. You're just smoothing it, nothing more than that. So I also put the tape in this way, and you can kind of rest your thumb on this bar on the back end and just do that. And I also turned the paper over and went at it from basically upside down, and got it in there, get it up behind that bar. There we go. And just took off what I could on the other side of this piece, you know, but you kind of have to hold the sandpaper still while you're doing that. There you go. Because I'm not wanting to remove material, I'm just wanting to get those tiny little pieces of crap out of there. When I got done with this, and I had the M-Carbo trigger spring in it, it was according to the old school trigger pull gauge that I had borrowed from my neighbor, it was doing about 5 pounds. And I know for a fact that even though it was doing 5 pounds, if I wouldn't have polished up this little area right here, all of the creep would still be there. Because I ended up taking that spring out and putting the factory one back in, and it is breaking exactly at 6 pounds, and it's nice and smooth all the way through until you get to the point where the gun would go bang. Anyways, I'm going to put the gun back together, and I want to show you one other little trick that I do on my gun. That's the front piece that goes in front of the receiver shroud or whatever they call it. But on the bottom side of this, it's got these little legs. I'm sure you all know about them. And I just put the tiniest dab of frog lube on that, and it works perfect. So after you kind of get all of your parts to where you want them, and I just put, like I said, just the lightest amount of frog lube on there, and that's going to be good enough. I talked to the tech back there at High Point, and he says, yeah, the guns mostly run dry, they're fine with that. And I asked him about shooting the 40mm through the 10mm, or the 40 Smith & Wesson through the 10mm, and he said absolutely not. Quite likely it would ruin the crown of the barrel. How it would do that, I'm not sure, but he said don't do it. And also premature chamber erosion. So I decided I won't be shooting 40 Smith & Wesson in it. anyways, I'm gonna put this gun back together. Got a little bit of crap on it from shooting today. Let's see. I think it goes in like that. But it's not a very complicated gun. There's just not much to it. It's the more you take it apart, the easier it is. I'm going to put this back together, and tomorrow I'm going to go do some shooting, and you're going to be amazed at the accuracy that I've been getting out of this gun. Is certainly what I got today through both of the sight systems, and even removing the scope, shooting the open sight or the see-all, and then putting the scope back on and going straight to zero again. Very, very nice. So I'm going to pause it for a second and put the pin, the sear spring and everything back in, and there's one other thing I want to show you. Okay, I'm rolling again. I actually it didn't hit the record button when I wanted to show you that extra step. But here's the gun, and as you can see, it's unloaded. High point. And the trigger. One main thing to remember is just use the pad. Don't get in there with your knuckle on there if you even can, but just get the pad on it so it's oh, if you can see that, I'm just touching it, and right at the bottom is where it seems to want to break. You know, that felt really good, but the trigger and all of that stuff is working right inside of the handle here, and the lever that attaches to the one that comes from the trigger, and it goes up to hold the pin that keeps the sear in place. That rides in its own little indent, and that lever on the side that it rides in the indent, just turn that over and just take the paint off of that too. No more than just the paint. That's all you want to do. And put a little frog lube on it, real light on all of that stuff. Slap it back together. I'm sure it's going to help a little bit more, but that's the final stage of paint removal, and just those little imperfections that we already talked about. So tomorrow, go back out, do some more shooting. Got plenty of ammo. A lot of people complain about the cost for a 10mm, and I've been shooting, or I bought 1,000 rounds of S&B 180 grain full metal jacket with the flat nose. Works great in the gun, real accurate, and it's 32 cents a round from Midway. And if you buy, you know, 319 bucks, they'll ship it for free. My Ruger GP 100, that's also in 10mm, it has really good success with accuracy, also with that ammunition, so that part's kind of nice. Anyways, sign out, and see you tomorrow when I get to the range. Have a nice night. Okay, those clay pigeons are at 40 yards, and this shouldn't be too much trouble to hit. I'm going to go ahead and start from the left and go to the right. Keep in mind, I don't see as well as I used to, so
This is a little bit of a deal for me. Two and one, that's pretty good. Okay, no trouble with the accuracy on that. And I think there's still one more clay left over there, right there. I think I have one shot left. It's kind of laying flat on its face. See if I can get that. Yeah, real nice. It's easy to see. Seems to hold zero real well. And I realize it's only 40 yards. And I could probably shoot farther, but I don't really have the space available to do that today. So what I'm going to do right now is attach the scope and change the target. Signing out. Okay, I'm back. I've got the Konus Pro 1.5 to 5 millimeter or power scope on there, and I'm gonna turn it over to the target and let's see what we got. Just a sec. Okay, there's the target. Let's see what we do. I'll do 5 shots on that. I have to admit, not real comfortable with any of those shots. Part of the reason is my scope. I messed around with the eye relief adjustment last night and it is a little bit blurry. So I'm not sure on that. Yeah, that totally sucks. That is a horrible group for this rifle, especially at 25 yards. I'm going to readjust that eye relief and see if I can't clear up the picture and try it again. So signing out for a second. Okay, well, I couldn't take it. The groups that I shot previously, they were just too far apart, so I made a few more adjustments. I want to get this thing absolutely perfect. Here we are again at 25 yards, and everything should be, every shot should be touching. If every shot isn't touching, then I'm not happy. So here we go. Yeah, I'm not sure what was up with that first shot. Probably just me. Okay. Well, that's what it's supposed to do. So, I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm gonna call that good. There are two little chunks of, here we go. Those two little chunks of clay pigeon, they're about an inch across at the most. One of them's quite a bit smaller. So let's just go ahead and try the small target shot. One on the left first. Oh, I must have got the main meat of the box. Okay, well, I'm done. Hope you enjoyed the video. And I have to say thank you for your patience. And as you can see, the high point is quite accurate. It just takes the right person, the right day, you know, all that crap. It's off quite a bit today, but I persevered and it paid off. And I suggest you do the same. Have a great day. Signing out. I am officially done.